To continue to mark and observe the death of South African struggle icon Winnie Madikizela-Mandela. U.S. civil rights leader and activist, Baptist minister and politician, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, also sent his condolences, saying in a tweet, in the darkest hours of the struggle to free South Africa, with Nelson Mandela in prison, the face of hope and courage was that of #Winnie Mandela. He joins us now on the line from Memphis, Tennessee, in the United States. The Reverend Jesse Jackson, of course, are currently attending the pre-celebrations of the 50th anniversary of the assassination of Martin Luther King. In 1979, you'll know he visited South Africa, where he spoke out against apartheid and later journeyed to the strife-ridden Middle East and campaigned to give Palestinians their own state. He joins us now on the line, I'm pleased to say. Reverend Jackson, good evening South African time, and thank you so much for joining us.
How do you do?
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. It is the 50th anniversary tomorrow of the assassination of civil rights leader Martin Luther King, as I said in my introduction. And of course, there's a major intersection between the anti-apartheid struggle and the civil rights movement in the United States.
Well, it is an absolute connection because we were in apartheid here in America. We call it segregation, much of what you call apartheid in South Africa. And such a kinship between our struggles as we sought to break the bondages of oppression. Winnie Mandela's loss this week loomed large in our hearts because in the darkest hours of apartheid, when most people had never seen Nelson Mandela, many never heard of his name, they knew the face and the voice of Winnie Mandela. Her courage and her standing up against that system, a woman with children whose husbands in jail, was a big deal toward a free South Africa today. And
of course, you'll know that she stands, quite tall as a leader in her own right, because exactly as you say, there are many people around the world, not just in this country, who came to know the name of Nelson Mandela because Winnie Madikizela-Mandela stood up against the apartheid regime.
Well, we didn't know her just as the wife. She was a leader. She was a leader also, and she had the burden of being a woman in a male chauvinist society, being a black woman under apartheid with children whose husband was in jail. She had all those odds against her, yet somehow she faced exile. She faced threats. She faced torments, and yet her voice rang out as a voice worth hearing to and listening to.
She also stands, I suppose, recognized amongst what you might call wives of the struggle. If I think of people like Dr. Coretta Scott King, and if I think of Dr. Betty Shabazz, for example, she's one of those fierce icons who represent so much around the strength of women in movements like the civil rights movement and the anti-apartheid struggle.
Well, that certainly is true, but when Winnie spoke with authority, and she was exiled, and she never compromised with apartheid in South Africa. We always found in her a strength that was universal.
She was also somebody who spoke a lot of truth to power. As in your own struggle, you look ahead on this eve of the 50th anniversary of the assassination of Martin Luther King. I mean, what do you say globally around the struggle for people, oppressed people around the world? What would Martin Luther King Jr. be reflecting on at a time like this with the passing of this struggle icon in our country?
Well, jail cells could not contain the dignity of South Africans fighting for freedom. Jail cells simply stimulated the struggle for dignity. A bullet could not stop our movement in America for freedom. We went from the balcony here in Memphis, Tennessee, Lorraine Hotel, to the balcony of the White House as head of state. And so no graveyard can hold our bodies down. No lie can live forever, and nothing will stop us in our quest for dignity and equality. And one of those voices that's iconic globally, and I hope South Africa, as it honors her, remains and has a state funeral, will in fact exalt her to the level she deserves exaltation for before we knew Johnny McAtee, who was a voice to be known, reckoned with. Before we knew Thabo Mbeki, before we knew Cyril Ramaphosa, we knew Winnie Mandela. And even when Oliver Tambo was traveling around the world to the ANC, we did not know him as a visible force. He was outside the country. She never left the oven. She never left the oven of apartheid. She fought it from within and did so with amazing courage and dignity. And so we love her. We cherish her memory. And we'll forever remember her. Okay?
That is, of course, the Reverend Jesse Jackson there on the line from Memphis, Tennessee, as that country prepares to observe the 50th anniversary of the passing of Martin Luther King Jr. And there was, of course, always that intersection between the civil rights movement and the anti-apartheid struggle, reflecting there on his memories and the fact that the name of Winnie Madikizela-Mandela loomed large in the struggle ahead of many of those who came perhaps to receive more prominence in later years.